Well, welcome everyone who's watching, and Haley for joining us live. I'm Jeff Venekamp, and as always, I'm with my buddy Brent. Say hi, Brent.
Oh, hey.
And we do strengths conversations every Wednesday at 3:30. We are live via Zoom. And today we are going to talk about discipline as the amazing talent that it is. And that's coming from a guy who does not have discipline. So I am in awe, Haley, of you and others that have this gift. So as we start with a little bit of just a little background. So let me talk about the strength as I understand it, and then Haley, I'm looking forward to hearing you spend some time talking about it as you see. But you like predictability, you like routine and structure. You are adept at big projects because you can take big projects and break them down into small pieces, like bite-sized pieces, so to speak. It is often about control, so you get things done. And with that control, you are amazing at getting things done. My question is to you, Haley, have you ever been called a control freak or compulsive?
I don't know the compulsive. I definitely have some control issues.
Yeah. But this is a superpower. I mean, this is the power that's in this talent, is because you're so good at having that, and you can see areas to organize so clearly, where others are like, this is just chaotic and it's going to be chaotic. Somebody with your gift comes in and says, it doesn't have to be. Let's put some order to it, and let me help put order in these moments. Brent, got anything to add?
Yeah, I as I was reading through, because I do not have discipline in my top 10 strengths either. The analogy that I was talking about in there is like seeing the trees maybe before the forest. So like when anything comes up, you're really focused down on like the nitty-gritty details of what's going on. So for you as an admissions counselor, when you're talking about a weekend where students are coming to campus or an event, you're thinking, all right, do we have the name badges? Do we have this organized? Is everything ready and rolled up? And do I have my system ready to make all those things happen? An interesting thing, and I think I've been thinking about a lot because of COVID, it said like our really great managers, even if there are limited resources. So whether that's limited people, limited money, limited time, you're able to think through like, here are the tasks, here are the things I have to get done, and here are all the little items that we have to prepare for that event or for what's going on. And then I really love the idea, and I know I'm fairly certain Michelle Lysack also had discipline as one of her top 5 strengths. Really thinking about like systems and how you can create systems for ensuring that timeliness, because you're really motivated about how getting things done and meeting like deadlines, like it makes you feel good because like you want to meet the deadline or beat the deadline at some time.
So Haley, my question to you is, out of that like intro that we do about your talent, does that sound like you when you hear somebody say it? Are you like, oh my gosh, they're nailing it? Or is there more to it than, are we oversimplifying it? How does it come across for somebody who has it?
No, not, it definitely feels like just being splattered up there, like this is who you are.
Okay.
Yeah, completely. Like, for example, I just renovated our entire admission suite, painted new office spaces, rearranged furniture, created new office and meeting spaces so that we would all have room to work. And that was just really other duties as assigned because of who I am as a person, not necessarily because of my job as an admission counselor. And my budget for that project was about this big. And so I made the most of my budget, and you two ought to come over and check it out. It's
Yeah,
it's a pretty sweet place we got over here
I
now.
will come over and check it out.
So yeah, that was
And
a
you
fun
just did that
little
this
project.
weekend?
No, that was like multiple months, because
Oh,
there
okay.
was like we were getting rid of records and things from the 30s. So
Oh,
there were some like, you know,
maybe a little organization happening there too, right?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
there's chaos. We need to put some order to it. Sometimes it's just get rid of it.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
the poor maintenance team was probably sick of my work orders and the amount of things that they had to take out of here, but it was years and decades worth of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Had to
yeah,
go.
I had to go.
I feel like you were clairvoyant, because one of the questions I was going to ask you is like, can you give an example of something recent that you've like created order to? And that was a perfect example of that. Do you find yourself, so like, as you're sharing like your system for doing that, or how you share your system for how you operate in your role, like, do you share that often with your coworkers and try to talk them through how they can create systems for themselves as well?
Yeah, so I'll usually create, like, for our team, whatever like random process we're needing to have it work better for us. Like I'll figure it out and create it for our team, and then like that'll be the kind of blueprint of what we use. So scoring test optional applications to the university is a lot harder than scoring traditional applications. And so like we created a rubric and a system for having multiple readers reviewing those and how that works. We have student ambassadors that work in our office. And so they used to like bop around to each of us that works here and be like, do you have any jobs we can work on? Can we help you with anything? But that was like super inefficient. And it became even harder when some of us were working from home and some of us were here. Those of us at home had projects that we needed help with from the ambassadors, but they were here in the office. So we were like emailing and all this stuff. So I created like a project list system where we dump all of our ambassador projects. And so now when the ambassadors come to work, they check the project document, it has what they need, and then they complete those projects as they're on there. So I like to find those things and then I create them for our whole team.
Well, and what's wonderful and what it sounds like, which is, did you know that was your discipline coming into gear, or is this just something you wanted, or did you say my discipline needs to organize this?
It was kind of like not being able to handle the chaoticness of it, of like, okay, this could just be so much better.
You can see the path to make it better.
Yeah. And so it's like, what could this look like? And so then I have a couple teammates that I always bring my crazy ideas to and kind of give it to them and see what they think. And then we try it out.
So one of the things that, you could do, or as you're developing this talent even more and you're working into it, and maybe you're drawn to this because I don't know, is that looking at different organizational techniques or reading up on how to organize differently, watching YouTube videos, TED Talks on here's how to organize my world, or here's how I organize. Even different time management techniques. Like I often have to change how I'm keeping track of my time. Sometimes it's stimulation, right? Like you get just bored with one thing. So I'm going to switch to another system, or I'm going to keep notes differently this year because I'm just bored with doing it the other way. But that's part of the, developing this talent is researching different time management techniques, researching different organizational structures, because you can always get better at it, and as you learn how to organize workflows and work charts and org charts and things like that, that might turn it up just a little bit, even because you see that it needs to get done. Getting better at how to organize it, to communicate it, turns it into a better power. Sometimes, have you ever had other, I don't know how to say this, maybe I need to think about it for a minute. Like sometimes people Thomas might even be one because he's a little wooey, or Wade maybe is a little wooey. They might be more willing to just like wing it, like, oh, let's go do it. We'll just wing it. Well, it'll work out. It'll be fine. And my sense is that that might drive you a little bit, make you a little bit uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. I have a lot of woos on my team with me, and
Yeah.
I love them, but they are very different than I am.
Yeah. And I think it's okay, and this is my point, is to maybe share your, it has to be a mutual relationship in that, right? You like, is this an area where I can put a little organization to your woo and to just make us more efficient, or to make me more comfortable? And also, what can you learn from them of, Haley, this doesn't need to be organized. It's going to be great without the organization. Don't spend time doing it. Just follow our lead and you'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
And communicating that clearly of going, and then post whatever activity, breaking it down, saying, okay, we can't do that again. That chaos drove me crazy and I couldn't enjoy it, versus, yeah, that was fine. I don't have a problem with it. That was a good moment where my need to control this environment and my discipline was unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
So very
I
specific.
often joke around with Max on our team that him and I should like create a business together, because we're the ultimate like opposites on stuff. He always has really good ideas and he brings like creative, just stuff that I would never, ever think of. And then I come through on the details and execute it. And so we joke around a lot about working together and the team that we are when we pair up on stuff.
One of the things that stood out to me, because you kind of talked about like with the relationships on your team and elsewhere, one of the notes that I was reading through was talking about like handling surprises and how you've been able to handle. And I think especially in this time now with COVID, like your reaction to some of the surprises of like, oh no, you're not allowed to be on campus for work and students are heading out, and like figuring out one of the pieces of suggestion, like if you're able to like create a system for how you prioritize things that come up and how you're able to handle that, because surprises probably aren't your forte, but it sounds like you've been able to adjust with some of the examples that you've already given, in particular the one of working from home and assigning things to student ambassadors. I think that's a great example of like, okay, I might have been surprised day one, but then you went into your mode of like, how can I organize this and focus on it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My ultimate not really a surprises gal story is when Thomas, poor guy, we went to New York City and that's where he proposed to me. And we had went ring shopping, well, together, of course, because he knows me well. And so we went ring shopping together and had gotten a ring, but like no proposal. And then we had this whole trip to New York planned. And as we were leaving for the airport and I had everything packed, I peeked in the closet in the ring bag to see if he had packed the ring or not for the trip. Because, well, obviously then that would be pretty telling of whether or not he was going to propose while we were in New York. So yeah, whoops. Look at Jeff, just appalled. Just absolutely appalled that I would do such a thing.
What to say. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I can't decide if that was genius, like way to be thinking about, because to me, what you were doing is you were organizing your reaction.
Right. Like, I needed to know.
So like, I'm organizing how I need to react. And if he's left it here, that's fine. I can go there with no anticipations and just have a great trip. But if he brought it, now I'm going to always be like, wait, somebody's going to take a picture. So I got to, am I going to look good for the engagement picture?
Exactly.
Am I going to, you're organizing that part of your life. It's amazing.
So there you go. There's your story, your discipline story for
It's a
whenever
great
you need
gift.
it.
It's a
You
great
have my full permission.
I'm absolutely gonna remember that one. We have students, a lot of students that watch these. And so to talk a little bit about academics and how to use this in your academics and in your growth. One of the notes in my research, make sure you take your syllabi and put them into a master calendar. You really need to see the big picture. And if you're looking at each syllabi individually, you don't see the whole thing, the whole structure yet. So you need to see it all in one place. That would help your discipline stay organized and understand when your big projects are going to come, so you can start splitting them into smaller ones. The other thing that I know is really important, because it's not necessarily about cleanliness and organization, which is a little bit, like some people merge these with like, my office needs to be super organized and clean. That's my discipline. That's not necessarily true for all with discipline, but you notice the things that are out of whack. So one of the things is, before studying on a big project or before like buckling down and really getting to like, I need to spend some time digging into this, clean your living space or clean your study space so you're not distracted by the chaos. And so, break down things into small. If you have a hard time creating the to-do list, like what needs to get done, find an achiever, somebody to partner with that's like gifted at to-do lists. Disciplines are pretty good at this, but sometimes they're not capable of like seeing how to get it down on paper. Achievers love that. They love the crossing off part. And then and this is maybe tricky for you, Haley, because you don't always get to find who you work with, but it might be somebody like academically, find somebody who's equally organized, because you don't disappoint each other. So when you get to pick projects to work with somebody, find somebody else who you're organized. Can we work together? Because somebody else's chaos, I'm just going to spend my time freaking out about their chaos and not understanding how they're getting anything done. And my brain's going to be spent thinking about that versus spent thinking about what we need to think about. So find people that are equally organized.
Well, and I would say too, for like, there's going to be group projects and folks are going to be hired into places where people's talents are going to be different. So one of the best pieces of advice is focusing on like the results of people rather than necessarily their methods, because you come at it from a very different point of view. You have that structure, you have that system, and like how Jeff gets to the results on a project is gonna look very different than how Haley's gonna get to
Haley,
results
I
on a
guarantee
project.
you, I would drive you crazy most of the time. Like, actually, I don't know, because I think about this and go, somebody with discipline, I would absolutely work well with, because I would bring the chaos of a great idea, like Max, or, like I would bring that and be like, I got a really great idea. I have no idea how to get from here to there. Can you see the path? Because I just know what here is and I know what there is, but getting from here to there, I don't care about, and I don't really need to care about. I just want somebody who can lay that forward, and I can support anywhere along the line.
Yeah. Well, and as you talk about your colleagues, Haley, it sounds like they get results. They're doing their work because you're like, I love them. They're great at their roles. And I think just recognizing our process is different, but especially if you're working with other student leaders or anyone that you supervise, know that how they get to a process, like you can be a huge help in helping them get more organized, but their process might look different. So I think definitely recognizing here's the results, and that's what you need to assess rather than the process for some people.
The last piece of advice I give, for academic world or for people in academics is do a little bit of self-study to find out when in the day are you the most productive. When are you at the moment of like, this is my best time of day? My example is my 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock is really rough. Like I'm a guy who needs a siesta. Like I need to live somewhere where they let me take a nap, because give me at 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm on fire. And I'm on fire until about 2. And then about 2 o'clock, I'm like, my energy level's drained or whatever. So for academically, if you know when you're the most productive, when you're going to be the most engaged, then arrange your class schedule so that that time is when you're able to study. Put your study time around your most productive time. Not, oh great, I'm the most productive and I don't have anything to do right now. So figure out when that time is. And then our last, go ahead,
I'd say
Brent.
the same goes also for like your environment when it comes to studying. Like depending on who you are personally, like it's not only just the time of day, but it's also the environment that you put yourself in. And as you know more about your study habits as students, like that will be helpful to making sure that you are thinking about that time, but also the like headspace and the physical space that you need to be in to be productive.
Mhm.
And then the last segment that we talk about is usually about career or career discernment. And the only thing that I think needs to be added to this, from my standpoint, is when you're applying for a job or when you're thinking about your career, is this career or job a place where this talent gets to shine? Like, are there processes already in place? And if that's the case, that's a thrivable moment for you, because you're like, great, I don't have to reorganize everything. Or maybe the opposite is true and they don't need my talent. So you need to decide which way, you got to answer that question is, will this talent be used and honored? And are there structures in place? In higher ed world, Haley, since you and I are both in that world, a lot of times like state schools and larger institutions have policies and practice, and it's structured. It's, if this is what you want, then this is what you have to do. And if this is what you want, then this is what you have to do. Versus at Augustana, sometimes it's, what do you want to do? Let's figure it out and make that work. And sometimes you can thrive in either environment, but you need to know which one works for you. And that's with all the careers that as you're going to choose a career, you need to decide, how is this talent going to be able to be leveraged? And when asking questions in interviews, you can ask point blank, I need to know, can I come in here and help organize? Or are you one of those managers who's like, don't change stuff, just do the job the way I want it done? And that's an okay question to ask in an interview. Can I come in and organize, and will I be able to rewrite things because it works for me? Or do you want me to do things the way they've done for you? Because, that's your management style. And everybody has a different management style.
Well, and I think Jeff is right in saying that like you can thrive in either, but you also have to know like what that expectation is and being like very clear and understanding of that, because that can help you, like, as you think of how you set up systems for how you do work, that can also set up the system in your mind of like how you're operating in your work and how you need to understand and leverage that strength.
Yeah. Anything else to wrap it up there, Brent?
I don't think so. I think we've covered all of my points.
All right, Haley, if there's any one takeaway, is there any one takeaway that you're like, oh, I'm so glad I tuned in because here's the one thing?
The thought of like studying other ways of organization is very exciting.
Yeah.
I'll add that to my achiever to-do list to study more organizational strategies.
Yeah.
You also have learner in your strengths? Oh, no.
You could just check out there's a gazillion like TED Talk kind of things about that. Like, you could watch one and then be like, oh, this is cruddy. It makes no sense to me. But then the next one is like, gold, I found something new.
Yeah.
Is there anything we said that seems confusing or disempowering, or you're like, I didn't get this point you were making?
I don't think so. The being willing to talk about it in job interviews is really powerful, because
Yeah.
it would be really hard for me to be in an environment where my leaders didn't trust me and give me the ability to look at something and offer suggestions and changes for it. That would be really hard. And so being able to ask that in an interview, then know going into a job if that's going to be welcomed or not.
Yeah, 100%. Knowing what you're getting is half of the, a lot of people look at interviews like, I want the job, like, give me the job, give me the job. I think in some ways we need to flip that a little bit and go, do I want this job? And turn the
Mhm.
interview back on it and saying, am I interested in this job? Because nothing worse than getting put into a position that doesn't fit.
Well, and I would say in addition to like in the job interview atmosphere, being able to express those needs in all that you're currently in, whether that's your, relationships, your friendships, your job that you're in now, all of those things, being able to express the needs that you need from other people is really helpful when talking about strengths. And that's just an overview in general for all of the
Mhm.
strengths.
Mhm.
All right. Well, Brent, thank you today. Thank you, Haley, for coming. Thank you for trying to get better at who you are and what you do. And thanks for the work that you do for Augustana and making Augustana something special.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Next
You had
week,
fun.
we have a different talent coming up, and I don't know if I got it pulled up.
I believe
I
it's
do.
strategic.
Strategic, is that what we're talking next week? Here I have it right in front of me. If you give me 10 seconds, it is strategic. That'll be great for me. It's like I live in strategic, so I'm excited.
You let me
so
know
much.
when you need those strategies done.
I will.
And we'll get them executed.
Okay, I love it. Thank you
Okay,
so
bye,
much.
guys.
Bye-bye.